Hello family, my name is Chris, I am your home gamer dad, and today we're going to be taking a look at a group of law enforcement Power Rangers stepping up to defend the world against a group of alien criminals. The B-Squad here has to prove to everybody that they are united and powerful and the right Rangers for the job. So that means on today's team breakdown, we are taking a look at Power Rangers SPD, or Space Patrol Delta, as they appear in Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid from Renegade Games. This has definitely been one of the more anticipated teams that have been released for the game. A lot of people are very excited to get SPD onto their table. I personally love Power Rangers SPD. It's one of my favorite seasons in all of Power Ranger lore. Very strong story, very strong characters, and it really does translate well to Heroes of the Grid. And they're easy to find as well if you want the whole set of Rangers. Jack, Z, Bridge, Sky, and Sid here. You can find them all within the SPD pack, all 5 of their Rangers, all 5 of their Zords, and 2 Megazords, by the way, along with all their cards. You can also find Doggy Kruger here, Anubis Doggy Kruger, the Shadow Ranger, their mentor, that appeared in Ally Pack 1. Now, in that one, you have the regular Doggy, who has, just as him the way he is. There is a special one that you can find on the Renegade website where he has his helmet on. So you have 2 different variants for the same figure. As per usual, these can just be swapped out in your game. It doesn't matter which one you use. It's just an aesthetic piece that you can buy. I like having it because I think it's really cool. I really, really wish that the Omega Ranger came with this, because technically he's more of the 6th Ranger in SPD than Shadow Ranger is, but I'm fine with this. I've been wanting to talk about Doggy for quite a while now. He's an awesome character, and he does play very well with the rest of the team, obviously, because he is their commander-in-chief. As always, any combos that I mention are just going to be focusing within the team itself. I'm not going to be talking about any other Rangers that happen to appear in Heroes of the Grid. And you know what? And honestly, in this situation, it works out great because they are made to work with each other. They do play off each other very, very well, as they should. They are like probably one of the strongest actual teams in Power Ranger lore, because that's what they're made to be. They are their squad together. And then, of course, Shadow Ranger is awesome in his own right. Also, should you wish to pick these up for yourself, all of the affiliate links are located down in the description section below, and any purchases using those affiliate links does go a long way into helping the channel and is very, very much appreciated by me so much. Like, you have no idea. Thank you guys again so much for all of your support and all of, just everything that you give to this. I love doing these things for you guys, and I can't wait to dive in to SPD. Heroes on your side, heroes for all time, out to save the universe. No matter where you are, if it's near or far, you can always call out Space Patrol. Go Space Patrol, go Space Patrol, Space Patrol Delta. Ready, SPD Emergency. Sydney Sid Drew, SPD Pink. At first glance, Sid comes off as a spoiled rich girl, a self-centered brat who only cares about what happens to her. But after getting to know the rest of her SPD B-Squad members and becoming close friends with Z, Sid became the heart of the team and learned the true value of friendship. Her genetic power allows her to change the molecular structure of her body to match whatever it is she touches. Whether it be wood, iron, or diamond, all elements are a weapon in Sid's hand. And her power comes in the form of her special ability, Transmutation. Once per battle, after any Ranger rolls at least 1 miss result during an attack, you may spend 1 energy and remove a different die from that attack to convert the miss result to a double hit result. This is fantastic if you roll 2 misses, because that means you are just going to remove the 1 miss from the roll, because you're not going to need it anyway, because it's not going to do anything. And then the initial miss is going to change into a double hit, changing from a standard miss, whiff, whatever it is, to a very powerful strike. Within Sid's deck, you'll find 0x energy, 6 0 cost, 2 1, 1 2, and 1 3 energy cost cards. She has 6 attacks, 1 maneuver, 3 reactions, and has the standard 3-4-3 shield type breakdown. Sid is all about changing those dice results, getting the best result possible from your worst rolls. Energy Fusion, a 0 cost reaction card. Play this card when a die result is converted. Gain 1 energy. Any Ranger may draw up to 2 cards. Fantastic to use because you would need the energy within your pool in order to activate her special ability, Transmutation, and then you can play Energy Fusion immediately to gain that energy back. And then also, if you are playing with other Rangers, if you have multi-hand going on or whatever, sometimes it's nice to get more cards into the hands of the other people that you're playing with. Next, we have Counter Thrust, a 0-cost 2-dice attack. If this attack targets an enemy with the fast keyword, add 1 die to this attack. Most foot soldiers aren't going to have fast. Well, some of the more modern ones really do have a lot of fast. I think the Crybots do. But this is something you want to hold on to whenever you go ahead and fight a monster or a boss, because most likely one of those cards is going to have a fast keyword. Most monsters and most bosses have at least 2 or 3 fast keywords floating around their deck somewhere. And I'm sure I'll cover that more once I do more villain breakdowns or whatever. But hey, having the ability to do a 0-cost 3-dice attack is absolutely amazing. And then even though the card with the fast keyword, if you're going to target it, it most likely have already triggered already. If it's the first turn of the round or whatever, or you just hang on to it for a little bit later in order to get a nice 3-dice attack going. Next, another attack, up the ante, 0-cost, 2 straight damage, no die rolling here, and I love these types of cards. The next time any Ranger performs an attack during this battle, add 1 die to that attack. And again, that's any Ranger, so it is herself as well. This is kind of a maneuver card as well because it's a setup, it builds up for the next attack. And there's a lot of cards within all of SPD that do that. Something that once you play it now, you're able to do something, but then the next time a Ranger does something, it's better, it's stronger, it adds something to it. In this case, it adds a dice. And quite frankly, Up the Ante just does a straight 2 damage anyway, which is awesome. This is something that I would play on a foot soldier that had only like 2 health or very close to dead to do that 2 guaranteed damage and then hopefully knock it out. And then once the enemy goes, we go again. And then whatever Ranger happens to go from their point will be able to gain an extra dice on whatever they attack. Heck, I could even use the last card that I picked up here, Counter Thrust, to do a 4-dice 0 attack if that happens to focus on a card with fast keyword. So next is one of Sid's favorite attacks in the show, Fist of Iron. And I keep calling this Fist of Doom. I want to call it Fist of Doom, but it pretty much is that anyway because she just kind of, slugs whatever it is in front of her. It is a 1 energy cost card, 3-dice attack. After rolling, you may convert 1 miss result to a hit result. It's very nice to have something like that because even though it's only 1 that you're converting from a miss to a hit, at least you know that's something. At least you know this will do at least 1 damage when you roll your dice. Now that you could roll pretty poorly otherwise and transmute them into other things, but at the very least you're guaranteed 1 damage. And sometimes that might be all you need. Sometimes that might be the main difference between knocking something out, making sure it doesn't trigger, or just getting rid of a final monster card or whatever. So all of the SPD Rangers have Delta Max cards. There's actually 2 Delta Maxes in their deck. The first one is their specialty card, in which case here for Sid, it's Delta Max Burst, a 3 energy attack, so it's like a power weapon of sorts, a reaction card. Play this card after any Ranger rolls dice for an attack. Convert up to 5 dice results to double hit results. That is insane. That is a ridiculously powerful attack, especially if whoever is rolling enables you to roll like, 6, 7, 8 dice. You can then spend 3 energy and convert 5 of them into double hits. That's 10 damage right there. That is a massive, massive amount of damage that Sid can put out just on a reaction. And that is all. I love it. Such a great thing. She has this like pink spirit bomb thing coming out of her gun, and it sets up in order to do a ridiculous amount of damage. The other Delta Max that all SPD have is the Delta Max Fire, a 2 energy maneuver card. Perform an attack with 3 dice that targets a foot soldier of your choice. Another Ranger may then perform an attack with 3 dice that targets a different foot soldier. So it talks about another Ranger, so at the very least, whenever you play Delta Max Fire, you need 2 Rangers within that same spot. Usually not a big deal, but Delta Max Fire is difficult to use if you want to solo an SPD Ranger, and that's not really what they're made for. They're made to go in there and work together and work as a team in order to be able to defeat as many things as possible. And this does specifically talk about foot soldiers, which in early game is great because you want to get them off the field in order to be able to earn your Zords. And then in later games, you want to get them off the field as well in order to weaken the monsters that you go up against. So this is something that we're going to see in every one of the SPD Rangers decks. Finally, we have Zord, the Delta Runner 5. Exhaust this card after any ranger rolls dice for an attack, gain 1 energy, and convert 1 hit result to a double hit. Of course, it's all about converting. It's all about changing whatever you have as a weak attack into something stronger, into something more manageable, and something that you'll need to defeat something. And it also gains an energy back. Gaining energy is key for the SPD Rangers because you need that energy in order to trigger all of their special abilities. Fantastic card, something that you definitely want to grab as soon as possible. Elizabeth Z. Delgado, SPD Yellow. Growing up as a thief on the streets alongside her best friend Jack, Z jumped at the opportunity to enroll in SPD, as her parents served at SPD before she was born. Z sometimes comes off cold and stern, but in truth cares deeply for those around her. Opening up to her team gave Z the confidence that she needed to not only become a strong member of the B-Squad, but gave her the courage to be part of something bigger. Z's genetic ability enables her to create holographic clones of herself that can either maintain a solid state or an incorporeal form. Also known as replication. Once per battle, after any ranger rolls dice for an attack, you may spend 1 energy to choose 1 die result and add 1 die to the attack with the same result. This is Z's big thing throughout her entire deck, adding dice to an attack that's basically a copy of one of the other dice that have already been rolled. Now, again, you're adding this dice to the attack, so if you have anything at all that talks about re-rolling, you will be able to re-roll the dice that she adds. But you probably won't want to, because if you roll a double hit, she can replicate that in order to give you 4 hits instead of just 2. As always with all of the SPD Rangers, make sure you have that energy because every one of their special abilities does cost an energy. Z's deck breaks down to 0x energy, 6-0 energy, 2-1 energy, a 2 energy, and a 3 energy card. You'll find 5 attacks, 3 maneuvers, and 2 reactions, and she has the standard 3-4-3 Type A shield breakdown. Z and Jack were orphans on the street for a very long time, and she learned a variety of different skills, including Sleight of Hand. 0-cost reaction card. Play this card after any ranger rolls dice for an attack. Remove 1 dice from that attack to gain energy equal to the damage of that result. This also works well for, I believe you can combo this up in order to do like the replication, so you can add more dice to that particular attack using Z's special ability or any other cards, and then you play Sleight of Hand to remove one of those dice to basically gain, you're going to gain up to 2 energy from this. And being that this is a 0-cost reaction, whatever it is that you remove from the attack is ultimately going to be a net gain for energy. Even if it's just 1, sometimes that 1 energy really does make a difference for all of the rangers and the way that a battle works. So always keep that in mind. Always try to find a way to get that energy onto your board, onto the power board, the supply and everything, because let me tell you, you're going to need it. Next, we have Double Team, a 0-cost maneuver card. Another ranger may immediately play 1 attack card. After rolling, they may choose 1 die's result and add 1 die to the attack of the same result. Basically, it's the same thing as Replicate, but now you're letting one of the other rangers just immediately play 1, and just an attack card. So can't be a maneuver, it can't be a reaction, so no matter what, that's the way that is. But they roll, you choose a dice, and that's the dice that gets copied. So whatever it is that they do, whatever damage they do, then immediately just goes up because you're double teaming it, you're replicating it. Again, she takes this mechanic, this concept of constantly splitting dice into multiple pieces, you know, seeing that and then making another one that looks exactly like it through her entire deck. So there was 2 of the first card, there's 2 of this cards, and let me tell you, you're going to be using these cards a lot when other rangers roll in order to try to get as much damage out as possible. An attack card for Z, Sideswipe, 0-cost, 2 dice attack. Another ranger may draw 2 cards. If they do, add 1 die to this attack. Now, it's great in order to be able to have multiple dice for an attack, especially with Z being able to do the replications and everything between her special ability and then the last card I just showed you. But you have to remember, another ranger may draw 2 cards. If they don't draw the 2 cards, then this is just a 0-cost 2 dice attack. If they do choose to draw, they have to draw 2 cards. It's not up to 2 cards. They must draw 2 cards, and then you can add another dice to his attack. Is that worth it? Most likely, yes. Again, it's always a good thing to have as many cards in your hand as possible in order to have you the most options that you can have. But you also got to watch out for the Rangers this way. They're not milling out their decks too fast. Next attack, multi-strike, a 1 energy, 2 dice attack. After you resolve this attack, you may perform an additional attack with 1 die. So basically, it's a 3 dice, 1 energy attack, but you're able to do it as 2 dice and then as 1. And that's nice because the 1 dice can target something completely different. It just says you can perform an additional attack. So if you're fighting something weak, you use those 2 dice and you manage to defeat it, that 1 dice then can fight something else. That 1 dice can also get around guard, because if you happen to defeat the enemy with guard, that's like guarding something to the left, right, or up and down on it, then that 1 dice is allowed to go and hit one of the adjacent things because the previous attack resolved, the card flipped over, and everything went forward from there. So that's something to also keep in mind when you do this, because you're able to spread the damage a little bit more around other cards besides just like focusing on one. Z's special attack, the Delta Max Riot. It's actually one of the few cards where you don't see like a power weapon being held. Like, it's just a lot of Z's coming in, and well, here's what it does. 3 energy, 4 dice attack. After rolling, choose 1 die result. The next time any ranger performs an attack during this turn, add 2 dice to that attack with the same result. So you're doing a 4 dice attack. Out of those 4 dice, you're really crossing your fingers and hoping in order to see a double hit, because that means that the next time a ranger performs an attack, they get 2 dice of 2 hits apiece. So that is 4 immediate damage that the next ranger who does an attack will be able to get. And I believe it's any ranger. So Z could effectively use one of her attack cards right afterwards and just immediately gain that as well. And then, of course, she has Delta Max Fire as well. 2 energy, maneuver, perform an attack with 3 dice on target foot soldier. And then another ranger performs another 3 dice attack on a different foot soldier. I like cards like this because wiping out foot soldiers is something that you want to do as early as you can in the game anyway, in order to gain all that experience, in order to gain your Zords, in order to really like power up your team as fast as possible. And Delta Max Fire is like the most ideal card to do that, because generally speaking, you're going to be coming up against foot soldiers that have 2 or 3 health, and a 3 dice attack is usually enough to take them down. Usually, the dice rolling gods sometimes are not in your favor or whatnot, but at the very least, you'll be able to not only knock down 1, but then another ranger jumps in order to be able to do that as well. And if you can play like a line of Delta Max Fires, you're just 3 dice, 3 dice, 3 dice, 3 dice, and boom, all the foot soldiers are gone. Finally, Z's Zord, Delta Runner 4. Exhaust this card after any ranger rolls dice for an attack. Remove 1 dice from that attack to deal 2 damage to an enemy card other than the target. So it doesn't do any type of duplication, it doesn't do the replication or anything along that ways, but it still involves you removing any 1 dice from the attack and doing 2 damage to any enemy card other than the target. So if you roll all your dice and one of them is a miss, it's not going to do anything to the target anyway. You might as well go ahead and runner for that, remove it, and then take that 2 damage elsewhere. Bridge Carson, SPD Green. Intelligent, quirky, and very long-winded, Bridge is the analytical one of the B-Squad. He has the ability to notice even the smallest details and formulate accurate and insightful deductions based on even the most obscure of evidence. His favorite food is buttery toast, which is exactly what it sounds like, and his genetic ability enables him to sense the auras of anyone or anything within his vicinity. He also has a latent ESP ability that manifests later in the season. His special ability, psychometry, I guess? I don't know, whatever. Once per battle, you may spend 1 energy to reduce the energy cost of the next card any ranger plays by 2. Honestly, I don't even care what the name is. That ability is fantastic. Spending 1 energy to reduce something by 2, that could mean the difference between using a Delta Max Fire for only 1 energy or a power weapon for only 2 energy, you know, spending it for the psychometry for Bridge and then the one that for the actual thing. I love it. I love being able to reduce the cost of cards and then be able to play more without having to worry about spending too much more energy. Bridge's deck breaks down to 0x energy card, 6 0 energy, 2 1 energy, 1 2 energy, and a 3 energy card. He has 5 attacks, 3 maneuvers, 2 reactions, and the standard 3-4-3 shield breakdown. When I talked about these cards earlier when this set was first revealed on the Renegade website, I said that this card should not have been named Got You Covered. This should have been called Buttery Toast, and it should have been Bridge sitting there eating toast with him doing the little finger wag or something like that. So Got You Covered is officially now Buttery Toast, a 0-cost maneuver card. Gain 1 energy, choose up to 2 cards from other Ranger discard piles, and place those cards on the bottom of their respective decks in any order. It's just taking, any 2 cards from any other Ranger deck. It's just up to 2 cards from other Ranger decks. You can use 2 cards from one Ranger deck, or 1 from one and 1 from another, and then boom, right to the bottom of their decks. Great card to have because it's a healing card of sorts. It's putting cards back into the Ranger's deck in order to be able to take more hits, using shields or possibly any type of star defense cards or anything along that ways added into the decks for future need, whenever an enemy comes and attacks or anything like that. So plus it gains an energy. It's a 0-cost card that gains an energy. Next we got Green Crash, a 0-cost reaction card. Play this card when any effect would reduce an energy cost below 0, gain 1 energy, deal 1 damage to an enemy card of your choice. This is something where you would use a special ability in order to reduce a 1 energy cost down to -1. There are other things within Bridge's deck as well that reduces the cost of cards, so you want to do that to maybe a 0-cost card if it's only going down by 1. But ideally, you need to reduce a card's cost below 0. So it can't just hit 0, it has to go to -1. I don't think you'd ever get it to -2. Maybe you would if it was a 0-cost card, -2 energy. But as long as it goes below 0, then Green Crash activates. And it has one of my favorite abilities on it. 1 damage to an enemy card of your choice. Does bypass card because it's not a targeted enemy. It's your choice. It just goes on the field. And then, of course, it gains energy. Next, Bridge does the Setup Strike. And honestly, it really is what it sounds like. 0-cost, 2 dice attack, so at least you get something off. The next time any Ranger plays a card during battle, reduce the energy cost by 1. So there you go. There's something where, with Green Crash, the next card you play, if it's a 0, it's now a -1, and Green Crash will be able to activate. Just like Z and Sid, this is the next time a Ranger plays a card during battle. Each one of these SPD Rangers has something that'll apply to the next Ranger's card, and it just kind of make a domino effect for it. Give somebody an extra dice. Reduce something by 1, duplicate a dice, or various other things that are going to come throughout the rest of SPD. Next is an attack card. Sweeping Shot, 1 energy, 2 dice attack. After you resolve this card, deal 1 damage to a foot soldier card of your choice. Very important wording right there. Very, a foot soldier. It's only a foot soldier. Now, granted, most fights you're going to go into are going to have 1 to 4 foot soldiers regardless of anything. They're always going to be most likely around monsters and whatnot. There are a few exceptions where foot soldiers are moved away, or you just happen to have a random draw where it doesn't, no foot soldiers happen to spawn. You could still do the Sweeping Strike at 1 energy, 2 dice attack, but I don't think it would really make too much difference because there are better attacks that you can do for 1 energy. And if there are no foot soldier cards on the field, then unfortunately Sweeping Strike isn't really that useful. But hey, you know what? If you can find a way to get it back onto your deck or back in there somewhere, it is a 3 shield, so it's still really good defensively. Bridge's Power Weapon, the Delta Max Booster, 3 energy, 3 dice attack. Next time any Ranger plays a card during this battle, reduce its energy cost by 3. This is another great combo card to set up for future Rangers, because if they have their Power Weapon in the hand, then really it's a buy 1, get 1 free right there for the Power Weapons. You're paying 3 energy. He's doing a 3 dice attack. That's not really that great. That's not, whatever. But the fact that somebody else could play another card immediately afterwards with a reduction of 3 is great. Whether you wanted to go below 1, maybe play one of the 2 Delta Max Fires or whatever in order to drop it down below 1 so you can use Green Crash, or any of the other Rangers from SPD or other Rangers you happen to have in your collection that has a Power Weapon. The Power Weapon then becomes a free card for the next player to play, which could really devastate all of the monsters and bosses and foot soldiers on the field. All right, Delta Max Fire. We've already seen this twice already, and here it is the 3rd time. 2 energy maneuver card, 3 dice to a foot soldier of your choice, then another Ranger does 3 dice to a foot soldier of another choice. I like the image because whenever I have these standard issue sidearms, I like them being either showing the entire team, which this one does, and I'm very happy with that, or it's a little bit different for each one of the Rangers. Like I remember with Time Force, each one of them was holding the Chrono Blaster in their hand, and really it was just a recoloring of Jen's hand, which I absolutely adored. Stuff like that is really cool to me because it adds a little bit more uniqueness to each one of the decks, just showing like this is Bridges' card. There's no doubt about it, but it's all right. All 5 of them are there. They're all blasting away at the foot soldiers. And again, the problem with Delta Max is if there's no foot soldiers, then it really doesn't do much of anything. But Bridges' Zord, Delta Runner 3, exhausts this card when any Ranger plays a card. Reduce that card's energy by 2. If this effect reduces the card's energy to 0, gain 1 energy. Reduces it to 0. Not below 0, not negative, not anything like that. It has to be 0. If it's 2 cost, reduces it down, and then it hits 0, you gain an energy. So unfortunately, it's a little bit situational in terms of gaining that last thing, but at the very least, you're able to reduce the energy cost of another card that somebody else plays. I love Bridge. Bridge is like my favorite SPD Ranger, possibly one of my favorite Rangers in all of Power Ranger lore and whatnot. And this entire deck is amazing. You know, his support abilities are fantastic. The constant reduction of powers and cards and everything, like I said before, it's just a great thing to have on the field. I think Bridge is a fantastic Ranger. And when I play him in my section, I am very happy about it every single card that I play. Awesome. Thank you, Bridge, for being amazing. Skylar Sky Tate, SPD Blue. Sky idolized his father, a former Red SPD Ranger. This made him strive to become a Red Ranger himself one day, but that goal also made him arrogant, hot-headed, cocky, and mean-spirited. He even became hostile towards Jack after Jack received the Red Ranger rank instead of himself. But through missions, sacrifice, and finally opening up his team and accepting Jack as the Red Ranger, Sky learned the value of what it truly means to be a leader and developed strong friendships within the team. His genetic ability allows him to create force fields that can either be used for defense or for force projectiles. Those force fields are his barrier field. Once per battle, when any Ranger suffers damage, you may spend 1 energy to reduce that damage by 2. Sky is all about damage reduction this time. He creates a lot of barriers for not only himself, but for any other Rangers on his team, constantly bringing down the damage that they would take. The ultimate defensive player is right here because, oddly enough, his deck is made a little bit more defensively, even in the shields department, compared to other Rangers. His deck breakdown is 0x energy cost, 6-0 energy, 2-1 energy, 1-2 energy, and 1-3 energy cost cards. He has 5 attacks, 1 maneuver, and 4 reactions. And Sky actually has a Type C deck breakdown with 1-1 shield, 1-3 shield, and 8-2 shield cards within the deck. A lot of Sky's cards just have it built in where things are going to have a damage reduction to it. So Tactical Shot right here, a 0 cost 2 dice attack. The next time any Ranger suffers damage during this battle, reduce that damage by 1. So there's his. So now we have another one here. Adding dice, changing dice, reducing card cost, and now reducing incoming damage. The only weird thing about this one is you have to remember a lot of this stuff. Like the next time a Ranger does something, you have to remember that you get that special ability. Like I've seen games be played and I've heard about it and everything where it's like something like you gain an extra dice for your next attack and then you completely forget that you get that attack. I wish that there was some type of like token or something like that in the game in order to remind the players that, hey, you get a benefit on your next turn or on your next something. And something like this for Sky, reduce that damage or run next time they suffer damage. That doesn't even happen on a Ranger's turn. That happens on a monster turn, on a foot soldier turn. So it'd be really nice to have something in order to remember that, that you're going to be reducing that damage. Next up are his reaction cards. And you'll probably guess what they're going to do, and they're a lot easier to keep track of. Barricade, a 0 cost reaction card. Play this card when 1 or more Rangers suffers damage. Reduce the damage that up to 2 of those Rangers suffer by 2. See, this is awesome because there are a lot of cards out there that would hit this Ranger 2 times or multiple Rangers multiple times and stuff along that ways. This actually will be able to guard more than 1 Ranger, and I've never seen that before. It just goes to show how powerful his barricade is or his force field is, and he's able to make it big enough in order to be able to block more than 1 of his allies. And a reduction by 2 is great as well, because that 2 damage could really wipe out any card in a deck other than a few 3s and everything. And of course, in Sky's deck, the majority of his cards are 2 shields. So if he can reduce it by 2, then boom, he's got a good block there. It goes to the bottom of his deck and he just maintains himself in the battle longer and longer. And man, it's so cool. Next, Barrier Break, a 0-cost reaction card. Play this card when any ranger suffers damage. If that damage was reduced, deal 2 damage to an enemy card of your choice. So now we're seeing his force field ability go into an offensive mode, being able to fire out a force projectile in order to do 2 damage to an enemy card of your choice. My favorite words within this game, because that's avoiding guard and just getting to anything I want and just picking away little by little at anything that's on the field. Trust me, stuff like that really does make a difference, because there are going to be cards out there that are super annoying. And at least with Barrier Break, if he manages to reduce the damage coming in, so now you're taking less damage, he's then dishing out damage back at, doesn't necessarily mean what hit him, but at least something. It's good to have that nice exchange of damage reduction. So now I'm in the fight longer, and then boom, fire off some type of attack towards an enemy, weakening them or just getting rid of them altogether. Next, Patrol Strike. 1 energy, 3 dice attack. If the target of this attack is a foot soldier, gain 1 energy. So you always have to have the energy initially to spend in order to be able to play the card. You can't just go in with 0 and target a foot soldier and expect this to work. You need to be able to spend the energy in order to be able to get it back. You're going to be going after a foot soldier with this in order to gain that energy, in order to zero it out and whatnot. 3 dice attack for 1 energy, kind of on par with that and whatnot. And then just again, going after the foot soldiers. A lot of cards here go after foot soldiers. And if you find yourself in a situation where there are no foot soldiers on the field, but there are other things, cards like this become very hard to play, because it's like, they don't do anything else other than whatever the dice results are. And you're going to have to rely on the rest of your SPD Ranger powers in order to manipulate them, replicate them, or do all kinds of other stuff in order to be able to defeat the monster or bosses that are there if they're just there by themselves. Next, Sky's special attack, the Delta Max Sniper, a 3 energy, 5 dice attack. If the target of this attack has the guard keyword, place this card on top of your deck instead of discarding it. Now, this brings up something very important as well. There's not much going on right now that I've read at all that can avoid the guard. Yes, I'm talking about a lot of like the single ping stuff. 2 damage to anything you want, 1 damage to anything you want. Yes, that gets around guard and whatnot, but there are really not that many cards themselves that say ignore the guard keyword floating around the SPD deck. So something like this is you want to target the guard keyword in order to be able to get this back on top of your deck. And of course, it's the only 3 shield card that Sky has. So being able to place this back on top of your deck after doing a 5 dice attack is really the epitome of offense and defense, which is exactly what Sky does. That is his whole motif, that is his whole mechanic. That is what makes him awesome. And of course, Delta Max Fire 2 energy maneuver. We know exactly what this does and everything. Again, you just gotta really be careful with those foot soldiers. If you're playing a strictly SPD team and everybody has a Delta Max Fire in their hand, you're not going to be able to probably use them all in one run unless you guys roll, poorly, which, I've been there, that's for sure. Because once all the foot soldiers are gone, this can't target anything. There's nothing on the field for Delta Max Fire to hit if there are no foot soldiers at all. So it's kind of annoying in that sense, but at the same time, if there are foot soldiers, it just takes them out so fast. So it's situational. It's very situational on how well this could actually function for the team. And then Sky Zord Delta Runner 2. Exhaust this card at the start of an enemy turn in battle. Each time a ranger suffers damage this turn, reduce that damage by 1. Great to use on an attack that does multiple attacks in one shot. Something that does 2 damage, 2 damage, 2 damage. You play Delta Runner 2, and then it does 1 damage, 1 damage, 1 damage. That's exactly how that works, because it's for the duration of the turn, the duration of the attacks. Hold on to this for situations like that. So this way you can do a mass reduction and then really be able to stay in there for much longer time. Jack Landorse, SPD Red. Formerly a street thief alongside Z, Jack volunteered to be the B-Squad Red Ranger to save Z and the other Rangers' lives. He's a very capable leader, but doesn't often follow protocol, meaning he butts heads with Commander Kruger and Sky, the Blue Ranger. Even though he takes things like being the team leader very lightly, his heart is true when it comes to protecting those around him. He's not the perfect leader, but the one the B-Squad needs. His genetic ability enables him to phase through solid matter at will, useful for escaping enemies, avoiding attacks, or delivering surprise punches. His special ability, Phantom Leader. Once per battle, when any ranger resolves an attack with an energy cost of 0, you may spend 1 energy to immediately play 1 card with an energy cost of 0. So you're basically paying an energy to play a card with 0, but it follows up a card that somebody else played that had an energy cost of 0. Jack is the master of combos. Most of his cards enable him to play a card either after another ranger or allows another ranger to play another card. He wants to be able to get as much out onto the field as possible and do as much damage and get as many cool moves and maneuvers and attacks and whatever it is he can in order to defeat the enemies in as few turns as possible. The costs of cards within his deck are pretty much what all of the other SPD Rangers have. 0x energy, 6-0 energy, 2-1 energy, 1-2, and 1-3 energy cards. He has 5 attacks, 3 maneuvers, 2 reactions, and the standard 3-4-3 shield type A breakdown. Using those fancy phasing skills of Jack's, we have the Attack of Opportunity, a 0-cost 2-dice attack. If another ranger has played an attack or maneuver card this turn, add 1 dice to this attack. So it's pretty much using one of those abilities where it would be like playing an attack right after something else. This would be a perfect thing for his Phantom Leader ability because it's supposed to be him phasing through another character. So Phantom Leader, you know, just being a phantomish ranger, maybe not the Phantom Ranger, but a Phantom-like ranger. And then that means that if he's able to play this card after another ranger has already played an attack or a maneuver, and it's got to be another ranger, it can't be him, then at least then this becomes a 0-cost 3-dice attack. So it's a little difficult to set up. It's a little bit more of a challenge in order to be able to get this particular card to line up to do the most out of it that you can do. But if you're able to do it, then that means you're playing multiple cards in a turn, which then means multiple attacks, multiple chances of defeating something, and multiple ways of getting harder enemies off the field before they get a chance to trigger and do other bad things. Next, we have the Hybrid Magnum. 0-cost, 1 straight damage, no rolling or anything along that way, just a damage. After you resolve this attack, you may deal 1 damage to that target, or another ranger may immediately play 1 card with an energy cost of 0. There you go. Now you're starting to once again see combos start coming out for Jack. But a lot of these are also another ranger, so he's not going to be able to play multiple of his cards in a turn, at least not with this card, and I believe not with his special ability either. I know his special ability is just for him. So his special ability enables him to just play 1 right after he plays a card, whereas Hybrid Magnum will allow another ranger to do it. And if anything, you know, you can always just deal 1 damage to that target if another ranger doesn't want to deal, play a card or whatnot. So 2 guaranteed energy damage to something, or 1 guaranteed damage, and then another ranger plays a card. Either way, I like both options. Next, a maneuver. Shrewd Tactics. 0-cost maneuver card. Any ranger may immediately play 1 card, reduce its energy cost by 1. Very cool at how they have that in there. I wasn't expecting Jack to have a reduced energy cost card, but it does play into his whole combo system and everything, where just another ranger play a card. Well, in this case, any ranger. So he'd be able to play a card as well. You could actually have, if you have Bridge on your team, as you know, with this, he could play a 0-cost card. Jack could play a 0-cost card, reduce it to -1, and then Bridge could jump in with Green Crash and be able to gain an energy and do a damage. And just so many options and so many opportunities to do some amazing combos with Jack, because that's all he wants to do. He just wants to combo off of people. He may not be, I mentioned it before, he's not the greatest leader. He's not the greatest Red Ranger, in my opinion. I find I'm not a big fan of Jack, but I definitely see the potential within his deck and how strong that not only he is, but what he adds to the team and how he gets the rest of the team to be stronger than what they are. Slowly but surely, it's all coming together in 1 energy reaction card. Play this card at the end of any ranger turn in battle. Gain 1 energy for each ranger who has played a card during this turn, including you. But I don't think that includes this card. Like, Well, maybe it does. I guess so, because you would have played it during the turn. It's not really the full end yet. It's like a reaction to the end. I don't know, whatever. The more Rangers that play cards during a turn, the more energy you can get. Now, is it a possibility that you could be in a situation where you have 6 Rangers and every Ranger has played a card in that turn? Thus, playing this would not only gain you the 1 energy you spent back, but 5 additional ones? Maybe, possibly. I would love to hear you guys' opinion on that out there, to see if it's possible to have 3 or 4 different Rangers being able to play their cards in one turn. Like, somebody plays a card and then it does something that enables somebody else to play a card, that enables somebody else to play a card, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this way, when you play, it's all coming together. You're getting a massive amount of energy in. Let me know down in the comment section below how you would interpret that and how you would play it, and we'll see what we say. Jack's power weapons, the Delta Blasters. He always had these 2 guns in his hand. He loved dual wielding these things. 3 energy, 3 dice attack. After you resolve this attack, you may perform an additional attack with 3 dice, or any Ranger may immediately play 1 card. I think in this situation, you'd want to just do another 3 dice attack. I mean, 3 energy for 6 dice, ideally. So then it's like 3 dice, and then you do another 3 dice. But I guess if you're targeting an enemy and you roll the 3 dice and you defeat them, rather than going off against something else, maybe another Ranger wants to step in order to be able to do something strong. Seems a little wasteful for me in terms of like 3 energy. Definitely would need to be reduced in order to justify that a little more, but 3 energy to do 2 3 dice attacks to me sounds a lot better. I wish that it would be like a Ranger may immediately play 1 card with an energy reduction of 1 or something along that way. Something to make a little bit more incentive to get my other Ranger friends to do an attack if I don't want to run around and just blast things to death. Like, I don't know. I just think that would be better to do. I like the first option compared to the second one, but I can see where they're both useful. And then the final time we'll see Delta Max Fire for this particular breakdown. Jack standing right there in the middle. I mean, there's no different in terms of like background color or whatever. It's always the same image. It's always the same brightness or whatnot. So it looks a little different for each one of the Rangers, a little weird on green, a little bit better on yellow. I think this is probably the most ideal spot for this image. Just the red card, the red background with Jack being in the center and everything along that way. Just really, really cool imagery right there with the 5 Rangers ready to blast their way through hordes and hordes of foot soldiers coming at them. So there you go. Delta Max Fire, standard issue sidearm for all of the SPD Rangers. And finally, we have Delta Runner 1, Jack's Zord. Exhaust this card at the start of a battle. The Rangers may ignore the fast keyword to take the first turn in battle, but cannot play cards during that turn with an energy cost greater than 0. That is awesome. To be able to ignore the fast keyword is pretty much like get rid of that keyword completely. It means nothing. Now, yes, you're only able to play a card with a 0 cost energy, so it's a little bit more limiting in terms of what it is you're able to do, what it is that you can play on that first turn, but at least you'd be able to play something that first turn. That in its own right is a huge advantage over every battle, because losing that first turn and having the enemy immediately go could really wipe out 1 or more characters that you have or get them into that like danger zone area. So ignoring fast, fantastic, awesome. Cannot play cards during their turn with an energy cost greater than 0. It's got to be a 0 cost. There's some pretty good 0 cost cards in here, so that's not really a worry. I'm sure that something can be picked out in order to be able to deal as much damage as possible and start like really pushing forward and getting rid of that passive.
SPD Emergency!
Anubis Doggy Kruger, SPD Shadow Ranger. An alien species known as a Syrian, Anubis is the commander of the SPD Earth Base and mentor to the B-Squad. He's tough and stubborn, but fair, and is overall kind-hearted and brave. Anubis had to deal with some personal demons in order to use the Shadow Ranger powers, but he was able to overcome them in order to be able to avenge his wife and his home world. Even though he's hard on them from time to time, Anubis has very high regards for the B-Squad, calling them once the best team he has ever had. Anubis is the squad commander as his special ability. Once per battle during any Ranger turn, you may spend 1 energy to allow another Ranger to perform an attack with 3 dice instead of playing a card. It's awesome seeing these Rangers that were made earlier before the team came out and actually see that there it is right there. He still needs to spend an energy in order to be able to use his special ability, but you're able to then do something awesome with this. In this case, 3 dice attack instead of playing a card. So if you happen to be in a situation with a lot of Delta Max fires and you can't do anything about that, hopefully Anubis Kruger is on your team, because then he's able to spend an energy and you don't have to play a card, but you still can do a 3 dice attack. Anubis's deck has 0x energy, 5-0 energy, 4-1 energy, and a 3 energy cost card. He has 5 attacks, 3 maneuvers, 2 reactions, and the standard 3-4-3 Type A shield breakdown. Anubis is a mentor towards the B-Squad, and of course he has the Discipline card in his deck. 0 cost reaction card. Play this card when any ranger performs an attack. That ranger may reroll any number of dice during that attack. We see this all the time on mentor characters, or at least most of the time at least. Discipline has shown up, I can think of at least 3 other situations where characters have this card in their deck. And let me tell you, it is fantastic, because having any type of reroll is just as important, at least in my opinion, as having extra dice, because you're able to then manipulate the dice a little bit more and hope for a better result should you roll something and it just turn out to be utter garbage. Anyway, let's go ahead and go with Bark Orders. Get it? Because he's kind of like a dog? Yeah, nice. 0 cost maneuver card. Another ranger may immediately play 1 card. It's like Jack's ability, which is awesome. After that card resolved, that ranger may place that card on top of their deck instead of discarding it. So they can play any card they want. So if you have the energy, if you have the ability and whatnot in order to play it, then by all means play 1 card, and then it goes to the top of your deck. So you can be able to put a 2 shield card or a 3 shield card even on top of your deck in order to be able to set up something for future defense, or just, you know, if you know you're going to be drawing cards later, play it, put it on top of the deck, and then you'll be able to take it back into your hand in order to be able to play it. What's really interesting, and I'm going to mention this now because I forgot to mention it during when I was talking about Sky, is there are no star defense cards at all in all of SPD. And you would figure, like, I would think Sky would have at least had a few in there, being the defensive guy that he is. But, you know, this would be good just to, like, increase his defense, put more stuff on there and whatnot. But if you're having to play somebody that has star defense cards in it, Bark Orders, that's a great thing in order to do, in order to set that up for future defensive actions. Next, an attack card. Shadow Slash. 1 energy, 3 dice attack. Before rolling, you may remove 1 dice from this attack to gain 2 energy. So ideally then, you're gaining 1 energy because you got to spend the 1 energy before you do it in order to play the card to activate it. And then you can then remove a dice in order to gain 2 back. So you're getting a net total of 1, and then this becomes a 0 cost 2 dice attack. They just initially had to pay for it first. So you're either just getting a 3 dice attack, which isn't that bad. It's never anything terrible to have. Pretty on par per se when it comes to 1 energy cards. But if you can afford to just before rolling to remove a dice and just make it a 2 dice attack, then I would definitely say take that, because the more energy that goes into your pool, the more things that you can do. Anubis has more 1 energy cost cards than the other rangers do. So he's going to need that 1 little extra boost in order to do a lot of really awesome things and just take down enemy soldiers and monsters and bosses, anything that comes at him. Next, we have Crowd Control. 1 energy, 2 dice attack. After this attack resolves, if the target was a foot soldier, you may perform an additional 2 dice attack targeting a different foot soldier. This is like a step down version of Delta Max Fire, where it's a 2 energy, and then it's 3 dice against one, and then 3 dice against another. This is 1 energy, 2 dice against one, 2 dice against another. And remember, this existed long before Delta Max Fire. So as far as being able to just go in there and take out foot soldiers one at a time, boom, 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 as fast as he did, because I believe the first time that he turned into the Shadow Ranger, he had to defeat 100 foot soldiers before he got to the main boss. This is kind of what that's supposed to represent. It's supposed to represent Shadow Ranger Anubis in the field and just laying waste to this huge wave of cryobots that happen to come at him. So it's his version of the Delta Max Fire. It's just pretty much him going in with his sword and pop, 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 2 dice, 2 dice. And I think that's it, right? Perform an attack, pop, pop, pop. All right, so you get 2 dice attacks, which isn't that bad at all. That should be enough to take out at least something with 2 health, or 1 or 2 things with like 2 health and maybe something with 3 health. So awesome, awesome card like that. And I love the art. Just look at him destroying all those things. Next, we have Judgment. I usually like doing these cards in energy order. So 0 energies would go first, then 1s, and then up to whatever. But Judgment is special because it's the only one of this card within his deck. And I really wish that this card appeared in the other SPD decks because it would make so much sense for them. And it'd be great to have because they need the energy. They really do. 0 cost maneuver card, gain 1 energy. Straight up awesome, that's all it is. Plus 1 energy if there's a monster in this location, or plus 2 energy if there's a boss in this location. Then place this card on top of your deck instead of discarding it. It's only 1 shield, so it's not really that great a defensive card, not something that you would want to really want there unless you know you're going to be drawing your cards to get it back, because that's a potential of a 0 cost 3 energy gain should you be in a spot with a boss. Now, unfortunately, there's nothing here also that says play another card afterwards, so this is the card you play on your turn. There's nothing else you'll be able to play, but at the very least, you know, you gain 1 energy. If you're going up against a boss, then you gain a net of 2. If you're going up against, if you go up against a monster, you get 2. If you're going up against a boss, you're getting 3. And as I've said before, and I'll continue to say it again, because of these special abilities and some of the harder, stronger cards that the SPD Ranger has, you'll definitely want to make sure you keep an eye on that energy pool and keep it loaded for as long as possible. And finally, we have his power weapon, the Shadow Saber, a 3 energy special attack card. Now, why is it special? Roll a number of dice for this attack equal to the health value of the targeted enemy card. Before rolling, remove 1 die from this attack for each hit token on the target enemy card. Let's just say you're going after a boss card. Let's just say it has 6 health on it. You know, this is kind of standard for a boss. But it has 1 hit token on it, so really it has 5. The Shadow Saber would then do 6 minus 1, because it has 1 hit token on it, 5 dice attack against that 1 card. So the least amount of hit tokens on it, or the few amount of hit tokens you have on it, the more dice you're going to be able to roll against it. And it's like, what is King Mondo? King Mondo, yeah, from Power Rangers Zeo. His card, his big boss card, I think is like a health of 8 or something like that, which is absolutely insane. You'd be able to roll 8 dice against Mondo in order to hopefully be able to defeat it, which is crazy. So the Shadow Saber has that power where the stronger the enemy is, the stronger it is, and it should be able to slice through it the best it can and then bring justice and righteousness to the world. Anubis' Zord is kind of a Zord. It's also kind of a base where a lot of people work at and work together in order to defeat the monsters. This is the Delta base. Exhaust this card when any ranger performs a recover action. That ranger may recover plus 4 shields. Now, this is a one-time effect for the round. Once it's exhausted, you got to have a special ability to unexhaust it, or you got to wait till the next round. But this effectively gives a ranger half of their health back if they're able to do it. Normally it would just be 6 shields that the ranger would be able to recover, but now you're able to recover 10 shields, and there's only 20 shields in the deck. So that is a half heal, a half power up heal, if you would, for the Rangers. Very extremely useful because you need them to come back from being beaten as much as they are against certain monsters and bosses and things along that way. So very awesome ability, very cool. The way I would play this in solo mode is I would divide that 4 shields up among the 2 rangers that get recharged. Because remember, in solo mode, whenever you use your recharge ability, 2 rangers get recharged by 6 shields instead of just 1. And then the Delta base, I would say that 4 shields can be spread around all the other ones. So maybe 1 will go to 1 for a 7, and the other 3 will go to 9 or something along that way. So that's how I would play it in solo. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Before we wrap this up, I actually have 3 Megazords to talk to you about. And I figured it's just more appropriate that way because 2 of them came in the box for SPD, and 1 actually came in Ally Pack 1. And the one that came for Ally Pack 1 is for Anubis Kruger because it is the Delta Command Megazord, which I believe this is the transformed into warrior mode style for the Delta Command Center. Like it actually becomes a giant Megazord, which is insane. Exhaust this card to place the Megazord token on any location. When any ranger moves to that location or performs a recover action in that location, they may power up. And what does power up mean? Power up means is they get to then shuffle in everything from their discard pile, everything from their main deck, and everything from their hand into one, back into their deck, shuffle it up, and then redrawing as if they're new. So powering up is something you do when you're on the verge of death or you're about to lose your last card from your deck. If you power up, you literally gain it all back in one shot, including the one energy in your own personal stockpile should it not be there. This is fantastic. This is an awesome ability because this is a make your own power up spot. Normally it's only reserved for the main command center, like the one with Zordon and Alpha. All the other like middle pieces don't have that same ability, but this means that if you have the Delta Command Megazord, any spot you're in, that as soon as you move to that location or recharge in it, immediately back to full health. Great to put down on a boss because you fight them, you can go a little bit more loose and take a bit more damage, but then afterwards you can just recover, fully heal, go back and do it again. Zords combine to form the Delta Squad Megazord. Now this is an interesting one, so bear with me here. Once per battle, when an enemy card is defeated, place their deployment card here, which is on top of this card, until the end of the battle. Each time a ranger performs an attack that targets them during the battle, that ranger may gain 1 energy or re-roll any number of dice. This is something that you would definitely want to use for a monster or a boss because I believe I guess there are deployment cards for the foot soldiers, but they have like them in the little circles. They can be 1, 2, or 3 or whatever. I don't know. I think this is mostly for bosses and monsters because then they become more of a target for your character to take down and beat and just try to do as much damage as possible so you can keep gaining this energy that the Delta Squad Megazord gives you or able to re-roll in order to do stronger attacks. I like it, I do, but it's definitely a lot more complicated in order to get through than some of the other Megazords. And next is the Delta Max Megazord, which is a combination of the Omega Rangers Zord and the 5 Zords from the SPD Rangers. So it's so silly that the Omega Ranger is not in this pack. I mean, I get again what they can do with him, but he really should have been in this pack. He really should have. Anyway, Delta Max Megazord. During each battle, when a foot soldier card is defeated, deal 2 damage to another enemy card. I believe that this can have a cascading effect. You could defeat an enemy that has 3 health, do 2 health to a foot soldier, 2 damage to a foot soldier that only has 2 health, defeating it, and thus doing another 2 damage somewhere else. To me, that's how I would play it. That's how I read it. I'm pretty sure it would be able to just bounce from there. Boom, 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 boom. You guys can let me know down in the comments below if that's how you would play it or if that's something that you didn't think of and maybe that's a rule or whatnot. I don't see why not because it is satisfying the conditions of the card. A foot soldier is being defeated, thus I can deal 2 damage to another enemy card. So I can't do the one that obviously was defeated. So again, very cool, very awesome ability. I love all the spreading of the damage. It just makes it go so much faster, so much easier. Renegade, get us that Omega Ranger because as much as I love Doggy and I think this is a great team up and everything, I really would like to get as many of the other SPD Rangers as possible, along with basically every other season of Power Rangers. So, yeah, Jungle Fury, thank you. And there you have it. Power Rangers SPD, minus the Omega Ranger, along with some other random Rangers from the series. I think there's still a lot that could be taken from Power Rangers SPD to form some really cool packs and expansions for Heroes of the Grid. As I mentioned before, the other Rangers set with Omega, Nova, Cat, and Orange Ranger would be absolutely awesome. We just got the foot soldiers for this. We got the Cryobots and the Bluehead Cryobots. That means we could possibly get some enemies, some bosses, some monsters from the series. Something like that thrown in, I think would be a really cool pack as well. Usually they would have, I would say they can probably do that packed in with like another season, like they did with Dino Thunder and I can't remember what the other one was that they did it on. It was like a few different things packed into one. So I thought that was really cool that you were able to get a bunch of some monsters, some bosses and everything that you're used to. And I think there's still plenty more that can come from SPD, plus a ton of other seasons from Power Rangers. But now I want to hear from you guys. What do you think of Power Rangers SPD? What do you think of all their cards, their abilities to work together? Kind of a lot of energy used between them all, but at the same time, I can understand why it's all there. Do you have Doggy Kruger? Have you used him yet? Because Ally Pack 1 has been around for a while. SPD Pack just came out not too long ago. Have you picked it up? Are you thinking about picking up? Again, if you are, Check out those affiliate links down in the description below. They are a huge help beyond all belief. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And mostly, I want to hear about your combos. I want to hear what Rangers you paired with the other SPD Rangers to get some awesome like combos and abilities out there and everything, and let us know, because that's something as a community I think we should all be sharing with each other. What works best, and what we should definitely try for ourselves. But that also means in order not to miss the future Power Ranger SPD session, which should be coming soon, any other Power Ranger stuff I happen to put out, or other fun videos for you to enjoy, be sure you are subscribed to the Home Gamer Dad. If you wish to support the channel even further, a super thanks is always well appreciated. You can find that down in the description section below. Trust me, those are very, very much appreciated from everybody. You guys are absolutely amazing for those that are sent. You can always head on over to patreon.com/homegamerdad. Think about joining one of the tiers over there. There's a tier there that enables you to see the full session of this in one shot. As soon as I'm done editing it, it's going to go up on Patreon, and it's just the full run, beginning to end, no three-parters or whatever. So you can just see it right then and there instead of having to wait for all three parts to appear on YouTube, which once they start would be coming out every other day as one of the next. And then, of course, the affiliate links down in the description below. If you make any purchases through those help out as well. So many ways to help the channel, including your view, your like, your subscribe, your sharing, your comments. Just doing any one of those as well really goes a long way to helping the Home Gamer Dad. Thank you all once again. I look forward to seeing you all in the session of Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid featuring the SPD Rangers coming very, very soon. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other. We are family forever, gaming together. Power Rangers to the rescue. Go, go, SPD. Later.